Welcome to the first match of the evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're on Echo, spawning to the bottom left-hand side. No, actually to the top left-hand side. In teal, playing Zerg, For My Risk, and Germany, it's Schnubiiii. And to the bottom right-hand corner in red, playing Protoss, For O Gaming TV, and France, it's Midastouch. Already preparing to wall off her natural base with a pylon down here, so is probably not expecting Schnubiiii to go for any early harassment shenanigans, and it seems as if Schnubiiii indeed just wants to go for the usual hatch first, typical Zerg maneuver that early in the game. So there it goes down, right on time, and we already have the gateway down for Midas. Yeah, Midas just wants to get this area of the map sealed off as quickly as possible, only leaving a small little gap over here for units to pass through. That will help her take this natural base a little bit, well, not actually the quickest way possible, but of course maybe a compromise between quick and safe. Since as a Zerg player it will be quite difficult to reach this building, trying to tear it down if there is a closed wall over at the ramp. So that's just the usual reasoning behind walling off at the natural ramp. Since the natural ramp is not that wide, this is also a very common type of play. Some Protoss prefer to wall off the main ramp first, so that they will have the possibility to even stop early Zerg shenanigans, because that can actually be quite problematic if the Zerg player actually decides to go for early pool plays, which Schnubiiii actually didn't. The Zerg player might just rally a lot of links early in, and then the wall will not be sealed off the time the links actually arrive. So the Zerglings will then be just able to pass through, run right into the main base, and inside the main base there will just be nothing. No pylon, no building, no whatsoever. And it will be very, very difficult to defend against the first links that come in, if the Zerg player, of course, micros correctly. If you don't want to risk that, you might just want to seal off the base up on the top of the main ramp, but in this case, since the ramp is pretty small and you don't need that many buildings in order to seal it off efficiently, you can just also try to wall off completely at the natural ramp. That's just an explanation for all you newbies out there, why some people prefer to wall off on top of the ramp and on top of the main ramp, and others prefer to just take the risk. That actually is not really that much of a risk to seal off right here. There are other maps where this won't really work as well, especially Newkirk Precinct, for example, where you have like double the ramp and you actually need a lot of buildings in order to seal off, so that becomes way more tricky. So in the meantime, since Schnubiiii has she already realized, I think she has, yeah, that the wall off is in place as well as the natural base. There are actually only two things she can do once she realizes that her opponent opts for an early base. One thing would be to go just for heavy aggression and try to tear her opponent down before she can actually make good use of the natural base. The other is to stay just at least one base ahead, which is what Schnubiiii now tries to do right here after having secured her natural base, and is also trying to saturate it. Well, on paper, of course, Midastouch is the favorite in this map. In this match, sorry for that. She's quite higher than Schnubiiii in the season ranking, and she actually plays in a higher league as well. So we expect Midas to take the best of 5, but we don't want to count out Schnubiiii yet, and see whether she will be able to take a map or two, or maybe even the complete best of 3 with some elegant strategies. So in the meantime, we have her securing her natural mineral line and also her her main mineral line, anti-natural mineral line, with a Spore Crawler against several threats, mostly against oracles first, but of course later on also against DT harassment, so that she just will have some vision around. She also kind of copied Ryza's style here by getting the early Overlord speed. That's a move that actually a lot of Zerg players like to do. In the FSL, Ryza is pretty much known for it, because she also often goes for a very quick speed on the Overlords. So in the meantime, we have Schnubiiii massing a lot of Lings down here. Seems as if she just either wants to surround her opponent's army units once they move out, or she just wants to run by, maybe even going into a Baneling bust, it seems, since she already has Bangs out, but she also goes into Hydra then right behind it, so it seems as if she just opts for some sort of Ling Hydra composition, maybe going into Lurkers later on. So for now, she just checks the third base, sees that it hasn't been planted down for now. Actually a little bit unfortunate here. I think if she had just kept most of her Lings in close to the front of Midastouch's bases, she might have actually gotten a good surround on all of these units, maybe even taking some of those heavy gas units down, which would have been also quite nice for her, but of course she didn't have all the vision that we had. In the meantime, I like this move very much. She just took down this tower over here, causing some debris to fall down and block the entrance towards the third base here, making it way more difficult for Protoss to engage, because now the only way to engage would be either tearing these debris, tearing this debris down, but it will take time and thus give Schnubiiii more time to react, or just getting right through the middle, which might be what Midastouch eventually wants to do. Regular viewers of the FSL might know that Midastouch usually is kind of a passive player. Midas doesn't really like to play very aggressively. I mean, you see some harassment here and there eventually, because Protoss just usually needs to do that in order to stay on par with a Zerg player, but most of the time Midas just tries to defend, get her 3 bases up, and then max out on a mixed army composition, mostly of consisting of Stalkers and some Immortals, some Colossi in the mix, and here we already see the first Colossi being produced, and later on maybe even going into Carriers and into Tempests. So that's just what Midas usually wants to do, just playing it chill, waiting, camping a little bit, and once she feels comfortable with moving out, she just walks across the map and tries to kill the opponent with the sheer power of Protoss. So let's see if she will succeed in that, or if Schnubiiii will just have the time to get her economy up as well, getting the needed tech a little bit earlier, and then just overwhelm her opponent with masses. Thus far it doesn't look quite like it. I mean, Schnubiiii had a good plan up to the third base, but now since I think she has already realized that her opponent has taken... Oh no, she doesn't. Okay, so she doesn't really know whether her opponent has taken a third base or not. I think she should assume that Midas has already taken a third, might just want to check for it right now, just runs in, sees the army composition now, sees that Colossi are already in the mix, so I think a Spire would be a wise idea. In the meantime, even Lurkers would be a nice thing to have, but she's not really going into any of those. Still staying on this very, very fragile combination of Zerglings, Banelings, and Hydras. All of those melt to mass Colossi, so let's see if she really wants to stay on this composition or not. But like I said, I think it would be really nice to have at least 1 Spire up. And now actually the bad thing starts, Midastouch taking an earlier 4th base than her opponent. That's just something you never really want to have happening as a Zerg player, that your opponent just gets ahead in bases. I mean, Schnubiiii just now equals up the base count, but equaling up is not what she wants to do. She really wants to stay 1 base ahead at least. And this 4th base should have actually been taken way earlier, after realizing that there is a 3rd base, which Schnubiiii still doesn't actually know about. But like I said, she should assume that a 3rd base is already up, and should have actually taken that 4th base way earlier, I guess. So, just walking out towards the 4th base, Midastouch just wants to secure her new base. Actually quite interesting that she didn't bother to take down the cooling tower. I think that would have been just a great move. I mean, she still has 1 photon cannon over here. She has the mothership core. Not with the army. Quite interesting there. I think taking the mothership core with her would have been a wise move, but the mothership core is over here, protecting the 3rd base with photon cannons and pylons over here. So now Schnubiiii knows for sure that her opponent has already taken a 3rd base. Seems as if Midas is expecting an attack coming over the right-hand side, so she just retreats her units a little bit here, moving it somewhere close to her 4th base and to all of her other base. I really like the positioning of Midas's army here. So, and here Schnubiiii comes, trying to come in from the left flank. Has probably not expected to see a base with fortified cannons there, so she just has to retreat for now. Tries to take down the debris here, tries just to widen up space in case an engagement happens somewhere around here. She doesn't really want to fight upwards or downwards a narrow choke point on a ramp, so that's why she just takes down the debris over here and over there, so that she will always have the possibility to just have some more space to surround the opponent. So Schnubiiii now trying to run some of these banelings into the pylons, but it doesn't really work out. Now she actually would need some sort of really good surround, but she just can't get it because the Archons and the Colossi just melt every Ling in seconds that tries to surround it. And like I said, the squishy army composition of Schnubiiii, unfortunately totally not up on par to deal with Midas's army. I mean, Midas actually just has the total anti-composition to what Schnubiiii has here. It's only Hydralisks. I mean, we might even see... does she have Templars in here? With Storm? I mean, I know she built a Templar archive at some point in time. There it is. Yeah, even now getting the Tempests. Don't know if she actually researched Storm, but I think she did. So the only thing she would actually need to do would be to warp in High Templars, just let them gather some energy, and once the Hydra forces come, just raining down storms. But with the mass of Colossi, I think she actually does not even need to do that. So now the big engagement. I mean, these are a lot of Hydras, and Midas doesn't really want to fight here, or probably fears that some Hydras might lurk around from a different angle in order to get close to these Colossi and snipe them down. I mean, if the Hydras actually manage to get a good surround or get just into close distance of the rest of the army, the Hydras just dish out a lot of damage. So Midas has to be careful to a reasonable point. So she cannot just walk up and hopefully crossing fingers that she will kill Schnubiiii straight up. But yeah, Schnubiiii just needs some units to deal with the Colossi, and unfortunately she doesn't really have any of those. Trying to get a Lurker Den out as fast as possible. Don't know if it will be there on time. Midas is now maxed on 200, so it won't take her that much more time to move out. She's just waiting for the last 3 remaining carriers to also arrive, and then she will finally have the typical army composition we know out of her. 4 Colossi, 4 carriers, a few Tempests, and then a little bit of gateway crap underneath it. So that's just what she wants to have. Schnubiiii in the meantime trying to get an infestation pit out to tech up to Hive, but I don't think she will get the time to do that. So now she sees that the army is headed away. It looks rather small. I mean, actually Midas is not waiting for the last carriers to arrive, is actually attacking a little bit earlier, but only to get some creep spread done. Okay, now actually sees her opportunity, sees that there is kind of a choke point over here. I mean, it's not the largest of maps anyways. Yeah, and now Schnubiiii just needs to run in. I mean, she has to take the engagement. There is no use in trying to retreat and wait for what? I mean, there's just actually nothing coming out that would even help her. GG, and Midas takes the first game. Map 2 is Overgrowth. And we have Schnubiiii to the top right, and Midas to the bottom left. So, in the first game, both players just tried to macro up, succeeding quite well. Unfortunately, Schnubiiii didn't really construct the army composition she would have actually needed to take a head-on fight with Midas's army. While Midas just did her usual stuff, sat back, waited for the high-tech army to arrive and then just steamroll across the map and a move to victory. Of course, that's an exaggeration of things, but you get what I want to say. So, Schnubiiii just waiting for her hatch first, so she again just doesn't want to go for any sort of proxy hatch shenanigans, for instance. That would have actually been, I think, a very wise idea, especially since Midas is trying to wall off towards the natural base. So having like a proxy hatch over here and then just creeping forward with some spine crawlers would definitely cause the Protoss player some headaches. Especially if there's only one pylon in the wall, and then you just get in here, or actually, especially in this case, since both pylons are planted down close towards that right-hand side, it would be pretty easy for spine crawlers to just tear these down, and then the production would just get crippled. So yeah, some sort of Suno-esque style would be quite interesting to see here. But never mind, Schnubiiii decides to go to stick to her guns and do what she can best, which is the extended macro game. So, spawning pool already in the making. Nothing going on in the main, really, but we already have a nexus planted down. Midas just checking if her wall is really tight, and just puts the probe into the little small gap, so in case links were to arrive. This Zealot actually is, I think, stands a little bit too far to the right. I think there's actually quite a nice gap here that Lynx could abuse in order to get through. But we will see if something like this is going to happen or not. I mean, it doesn't look like it from the circles around the units. Then it looks like a tight wall, but you never quite know. I think even Midas just realized, this does look odd. So let's just have a look whether I can just move this Zealot around in order to get it placed down properly. So in the meantime, Schnubiiii just uses her first two links in order to get some scouting information for proxies. So, or if some proxies were actually planted down somewhere close to her base, just checking all the typical proxy locations, does not see anything, but nicely done so. In the meantime, the Overlord, the second Overlord, arrives at its destination, which is right behind the main base, and later on Schnubiiii will use it to fly into the main base, maybe even sacrificing it, but she maybe does not even need to do that, since again she's going for the pneumatized carapace, which is just the fancy way of saying Overlord speed. So once this Overlord actually does have speed, she might actually even get through without getting it shot down. So yeah, this Overlord speed can save Overlord's life, boys and girls. So maybe you want to get it yourself if you are Zerg and you hate losing Overlords to stupid shit because they are so friggin' slow. So, Mothership Core moving out, also Midastouch checking the area, checking if she can just take out typical targets like Zerglings positioned at the Xel'Naga Watchtower. She can always either fly back. Most units in the early game can't even attack the Mothership Core, Zerg-wise, so yeah, she doesn't really need to worry about a Zerg unit just coming down here, shooting it down. The only unit that can actually right now, or can actually attack the Mothership Core right now would be a Queen, and Queens of 3 are just amazingly slow. So yeah, Midas can just always retreat and move back out of the range of the Queen, or she could of course also use a recall, which would be overkill here, but yeah, just getting some damage done, also getting some scouting information. In the meantime, Schnubiiii, despite having the Overlord speed, is going to leave the Overlord over here that just tried to try to fly through the base and saw actually everything. So nice scouting there for Midas, who's also supply blocked right now, having to wait for another pylon to finish in order to get this Overseer, this Observer, sorry, out. So Forge also in production for Midas, while we again have another Baneling Nest for Schnubiiii. Seems as if Schnubiiii just wants to either go for the same composition once more, hoping that maybe Midas might change it up and her composition might be more successful. Or she might just want to hit some sort of timing to crush through Midas's defenses before she can get out all of these nasty AoE dealers. For now, she actually gets a nice victory here, just cancelling the base over at the third base position. So that's already a small victory here, or actually a very big victory already, since she already has her third base down and just retreats completely with all her lings. I don't really know if that is necessary. I think it would be a nice idea to just re-establish her positions at the watchtowers and maybe even put a Zergling down here just in case her opponent wants to re-expand. It would also tell her when she would like to expand. Also, I always like to have some scouting links at the typical pathways where an army would usually walk through or pass by, so that you will also get an alarm if the army units just kill this poor little ling, and then you will just know and see for a short time which kind of army is headed your way, and then you just have some extra time to react. So that's what I just like to do, or just using this overlord and spread some creep down here, making it a little bit of a nuisance to get this hatchery down here, because you then have to wait for the creep to retreat, which actually doesn't take that long anymore. So another Ling attack over from the right hand side. This time around we have units around here. Let's see if Schnubiiii actually tries to take engagement. I don't think these are actually enough Lings, and so does Schnubiiii, so she retreats right away. Yeah, there were just too many adepts around in order to take this down. We also have a warp prism in the making, so it seems this time around maybe Midas actually wants to go for some sort of earlier attack. She even goes into charge. It's not the Koshki build, not at all. Koshki's build would actually hit in just a minute. But seems as if she might just want to go for either some sort of harassment, yeah, or just even for a straight up engagement. So we'll see what is going to happen. Okay, this is only a hallucinated phoenix, no real problem, no reason to panic. So Hydralisk again on the way. So yeah, it's going to be the Ling Hydra composition once more, and like I said, it can still work out if Schnubiiii actually hits with the composition before the Colossi or too many Colossi hit the field. So in the meantime, we have the robotics bay almost finished for Midas, and then the robotics facility will start producing Colossi. In the meantime, we have the warp prism inside the main base. When is Schnubiiii reacting? Is not really realizing what's going on. She even had two Hydralisks running up here. Could have easily taken down the Warp Prism if she wanted to, but now the Warp Prism unfolds and is warping in a few more Zealots, and this will cause a lot of trouble. In the meantime, Schnubiiii unfortunately wanted to go for some sort of counter-attack, but now she realizes what's going on inside her main base, so now she just has to completely retreat. At least she already has some Hydralisks out, so it will be more difficult for Midastouch to actually save that Warp Prism from getting killed, especially since there are no wide open spaces right behind the map. And will she be able to get it out? No, there Schnubiiii takes it down before Midas can actually just get out. Still, the damage has been dealt. Don't really know if that many workers got killed. Actually not, so nicely done there by Schnubiiii, taking them all away before the Zealots could actually hit them. But one queen died, and of course everything that was supposed to be a push just got delayed by quite some time, and in the meantime Midas already had the time to get at least one Colossus out, is already producing a second and a third one. Ooh, and a Warp Prism behind it also. Ooh, macro mistakes. Just doing the long macro lines here. Ay, 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 ay. So in the meantime, we have a fourth hatchery down for Schnubiiii, so that's actually, again, something I really like. Last time on Echo, she didn't really get her fourth base up early enough, but this time around she has it before her opponent tries to take a fourth of her own. So the only thing she now needs to do is actually just trying to keep this fourth from getting up, or a fourth from getting up down here, and then just maybe trying to play a little bit longer, starving her opponent, and she should be able to win. But unfortunately, again, she just would need the right composition. she now has realized that her, or should by now have realized that her opponent is indeed going into the Colossi play once more. So, like I said, I think an earlier Spire would be quite nice. Interestingly, she goes right into Banelings here. And like I said, I mean, several compositions can work against this sort of style as long as there are not too many splash damage dealers around. Then you still have the chance to take all of these units down, even with basic lair units. But the longer you wait, the more difficult it gets. So if you really opt to go for such a style, you really need to hit whatever it is you want to hit. You just have to hit your timing before actually that happens. So you either just want to max out quicker and then just overwhelm your opponent with numbers, or you just want to construct this composition or something similar to this composition and then just strike earlier while the opponent just doesn't have the AoE damage dealers out, and then just crush into the natural, crush into the third base, keep your opponent from taking a third base whatsoever while teching up behind it. But you just can't stay on lair tech forever waiting for the Protoss army to just get bigger and bigger. It will just come back to you. So, Midas in the meantime just also has nice map vision, mostly due to that observer over here and the watchtower over here, so she does not really need to be scared at all. Sends out a warp prism once more. The Dark Shrine has not yet finished, so it won't be DTs that will hit her opponent. So this time around, Schnubiiii now tries to engage, trying to probably just lure her opponent into her lurker trap here. Has to be careful not to move out too far away. She doesn't really want to lose her important damage dealing units to these Colossi and the rest of the Gateway army. I think she should just unbury these. Well, okay, right now maybe it can work against her, and like I said, yeah, all of these Banelings just died to nothing. They didn't even... they hit one Stalker over here, and maybe one of the Zealots, but that's actually all of it. So no real damage dealt, and now all she has left are only a few Lings and mostly Hydralisks against, again, an almost basically anti-Hydralisk army with the Colossi and the Speedlots in it, and maybe even later some High Templar here. Okay, getting even an Oracle here, don't really know what it's for. Probably because she's realized that there are lurkers out here, and she wants to have some detection, although she could also get back one of the observers. Like this one, for instance, that just stands here. I mean, you usually just want to have... oh, no, she actually has an observer right with the army, so I don't really know what the Oracle is for. Probably to tag the army and see it moving around. I think that's the only thing I can really guess. Or maybe she just wants to use a stasis ward. We'll see to that later on. So Schnubiiii now trying to get into a Spire after realizing what the army composition of her opponent actually is. While Midas is already investing into the direct counter of that. So that's another problem right there. So even, yeah, there is the attack. Even if Schnubiiii actually would now get, or even if Schnubiiii actually got to this desired army composition, her opponent is already working on the counter. So her opponent would already have the counter units out once, or before Schnubiiii would actually get her counter units out. So already countering the counter of your counter, and that's just problematic in a strategy game. So Schnubiiii just dropping in supply. Midas sniffs blood in the water, just moves across the map, knows that Schnubiiii does not have the type of army that can actually stop her forces, so she just moves right into the natural base. Schnubiiii realizes this game is lost, GG's out, and Midas takes the 2-0 lead. Third map, it's Daybreak, and we have Schnubiiii being down 0-2. She needs to make something happen in order to get back into the game. If she loses once more, the best of 5 will be gone for her. Midas only needs to take one more, and actually decides to go for a wall right at the entrance towards her natural base. So pylon already down. There's actually quite an interesting planted pylon here. Making the pylon part of the wall, of course, makes it easier to close it off more quickly. Don't really know if it's... seems as if it's positioned right quite nicely. It's still a little bit strange the way that Midas actually decides to wall something off. Most players just usually try to wall off the part to the ramp, so that units, if they want to get inside the main base, will just have to move around a little bit before they can finally get up the ramp. But this way you can just walk right in. I mean, the next building will probably be planted down here, closing that gap completely, but why not use the gateway right for that? So it's just a strange positioning, and I don't really know. And sometimes I think it even ends up making strange walls, which we already have seen Midas do, where she just needed to add one additional pylon somewhere because there was some sort of gap that just not really didn't get filled up with everything else. So there it is, the cybernetics core, even being planted down a little bit too far in front, I feel. This gives Zerglings like a really big surface area to engage, and taking this one down. I mean, there's the pylon right besides it, or right next to it, so if you have a mothership core out, it doesn't really matter, since the mothership core will just throw down the photon overcharge and it will attack everything and kill everything off pretty easily. But still, this just makes tearing down the cybernetics core for Lings way easier than way easier than if it were tucked back a little bit more. So, other gateway just sealing off this part completely, and like I said, this just looks like a little bit wasteful and odd. We have another pylon over here. Well, actually you need 2 pylons in order to really seal this off, because Protoss just also needs pylons and the warp fields that pylons generate in order to plant down buildings. So this pylon is not enough to, or just doesn't give enough space to create buildings in over to this end of the entrance. So unfortunately you just will always need 2 pylons anyways. But yeah, this wall looks rather odd a little bit. So not like the most perfect wall I've ever seen, but it will suffice, and that's like the most important part. In the meantime, we have nothing special over on Schnubiii's side, just the typical hatch first into gas, into pool, and now just trying to get a third base while scouting the outskirts of her own base for proxy pylons and maybe proxy buildings. But yeah, Midas not really the type of player who wants to go for proxy buildings that early on, but she moves her mothership core out once more. So unfortunately for Schnubiiii, Schnubiiii really nicely thinking of getting units towards the watchtower in order to get the vision, but denied by Midas's mothership core. Always, of course, a little bit risky. I mean, if you really know that Midas tends to do this, you might actually just sneak around a few units, a few speedlings, and then just run into it. And I mean, baneling busting this wall becomes a really interesting choice, I feel. If you really know that Midas is doing things like this. I mean, she hasn't even scouted any part of the main base yet. So if you were to baneling bust, and you even know, like just waiting for that, just planting some lings down here, waiting for the mothership core to just arrive over here, and then just running in with lings and banelings, there won't be any photon overcharges available. I mean, even if she used recall, she wouldn't have enough energy for photon overcharge anyways. So yeah, only a few units, like 3 at that point in time, and your banelings like crushing through this part, opening a wide gap. Yeah, that would be disastrous, I feel. Or even just doing a good old drop right into the main base would also probably be very disastrous here. Since, like I said, they would just take the mothership core forever in order to come back. But since Schnubiiii is doing none of that, Midas just takes the opportunity to get a third base out quickly. But Schnubiiii, again, doing what she did last game, trying to get a good surround on all of these units, will eventually just take them out. Nicely done there, so getting a good value out of these lings here. Might even get the sentry as well, while in the meantime attacking the nexus here. So yeah, sentry being taken down, so another wall of 100 gas being lost. Eventually losing just 2 or 3 lings to the adepts and the photon overcharge, but the base got cancelled once more, and this is actually a big victory hatchery for Schnubiiii here already, who's now investing into 11 roaches, so it seems as if she really wants to go for a 2-base timing this time around, ramping up the aggression, and has just only built this 3rd hatchery for the additional larva, and maybe to transition out if need be. So let's see if her roach push will actually hit on time. She will probably just wait for the glial reconstitution to move out, or no, actually just wants to push out right away. I mean, there is one observer in place, but it's not the best placed observer ever, but Midas is now realizing that. Ooh, and very unfortunate there for Schnubiiii. The observer just barely gets to see the army of roaches moving out. Ooh, this could have been very, very problematic for Midas to hold if this observer hadn't moved at that point in time when it moved. So Midas now comes back, has already produced a lot of sentries, so it will be quite difficult for the roaches to deal that much damage with the help of the Mothership Core, and the first Immortal is also on its way. I mean, for quite some time she should be able to like soft contain her opponent. Ravagers will also help out with pylons. Ooh, might even get the Mothership Core here, which would be a huge snipe, but unfortunately he doesn't get it since Midas is paying attention. So first few force fields are already spent. The first pylon is already down, photon cannon also down. Yeah, Midas just invested a few more resources into static defense in order to keep this down, and now we have it, the Cybernetics Core. Well, of course you could have also killed the Cybernetics Core if it was over here. But yeah, it's pretty exposed, so now finally Midas just feels comfortable moving out, the Immortal plus all of the other units dealing quite some significant damage. It seems as if Schnubiiii just overestimated the power of her units here. I mean, she killed some important tech buildings, but lost all of her army for that. So let's have a look at the worker count. It's 37 to 52, and after killing this army quite easily, I think Midas will now feel comfortable in expanding once more, and there she goes, throwing down the Nexus and 3 more pylons. In order to secure this base using the Mothership Core, so it will only take like 18 seconds in order to get static defense up. That will suffice to take down a lot of units. I mean, firing up photon overcharges on 3 pylons will actually kill a lot of stuff. So Schnubiiii in the meantime has managed to remake her army, but yeah, since she just invested so much into army and not into drones, well, she actually now tries to even saturate her 3rd base as well, right behind it. Might even get, no, probably not. Like I said, 3 photon overcharges can actually handle a lot of stuff until the rest of the army arrives. So Midas even investing into more photon cannons here, more static defense. Schnubiiii has to be careful not to let most of her army get killed. She will need it just in case if Midas decides to go for a counter push. She cannot really afford to lose all of those. In the meantime, we have a Warp Prism coming down from the right-hand side. There are not too many defenses in the main base. We have a Spore Crawler, but it's not in the right position to intercept the Warp Prism. Well, not at least if... Well, okay, maybe it does. It depends on where Midas actually wants to fly. Yeah, and there she just flies right into the Spore Crawler. Like I said, that's just an unusual part of the map to unload. You normally just want to unload somewhere here, or sometimes somewhere over here. These are just the typical drop-in points. But yeah, of course, if there is no defense, you can also just drop in closer in. But why would you do it? Like I said, normally you just want to get your units out as quickly as possible and let them run right into the natural base. Why just make the journey even longer? That's just unnecessary. So Midas just decides that she doesn't really have the mental resources to handle her main army over here and the drop at the same time. So she just tries to get rid of the Overlord over here. We'll probably just try to fly in with Warp Prism a little bit later. I think in the meantime Schnubiiii will really need to take a 4th base as quickly as possible after having realized that her opponent just tried to take her 3rd. And like we said before, it's just the rule of thumb that as a Zerg player you usually just want to stay 1 base ahead of your opponent at least. So yeah, there's the Warp in. Ooh, getting cancelled. That was just a misclick. Do we already have Templars or Dark Templars out? No, not yet. Oh yes, we do. So never mind. I was just wondering why they didn't. I think I saw a Dark Shrine over here, so I was really wondering why there were no Dark Templars. I mean, we have 1 Spore Crawler over here, and we even have, well, a second one over here. So it might even be possible to just get these Dark Templars before they kill all of the important structures that grant vision here. Don't really know if Schnubiiii has an Overseer with the army. Yes, she does, and she also has the Overlord speed, so the Overseer will even be quicker, and it will be problematic actually for Midastouch to make something happen with the Dark Templars. And this time around, Schnubiiii just wisens up and plants down a Spore Crawler. So that, just in case a Warp Prism tries to fly in once more, she will at least be able to attack it and maybe take it down, but maybe not early enough. So here's the big push coming through the middle. We have also a little harassment over at the right hand side. Unfortunately, not all of these units engage. Well, this Spore Crawler will get taken out before it can really damage the Warp Prism here. Unfortunately for Schnubiiii here, just with the small anti-timing there for her. Well, good timing for Midas though. So in the meantime, we have a fourth base trying to be taken over here. Nice move there by Schnubiiii. I think the only thing she's missing now is a little bit more vision. But does she have the watchtower? No, she does not. This watchtower is already occupied by a probe, but she could not hold it anyways. But yeah, like some Zerglings running around checking for a fourth base here or potential fourth base over here would always be just a nice move. And it seems as if she just wants to get some Ravager shots on this Warp Prism, but the movement, the AI movement just makes it a little bit more problematic. Now she finally has reached the Warp Prism, tries to take it down with a Queen, but she has most of her army actually on the other half of the map where there are some lings around here. But I think if Midas actually decided to just get into the main base, the Spore Crawler seems to have been taken. Yeah, the Spore Crawler was taken out once more. So if she unloaded her Dark Templars right here, I think she could actually take down these Zerglings and then just run in, while Schnubiiii would just have to run back with all of her roaches. So, again, I think Schnubiiii just letting her opponent a little bit too much time. Now finally the Dark Templars get out of the Warp Prism, get forced out of the Warp Prism because the Warp Prism will get shut down, or will get shut down anyways. So now she has some Mutalisks and some Roaches. I don't know if the Mutalisks will really be that helpful. Colossi just yeah, firing down on this Roaches, even separating some of them with the force fields, and the Roach army of Schnubiiii gets evaporated almost in an instant here by the Protoss forces. Midas just realizes that her opponent has probably overextended, losing so many workers, losing so many army units, sorry for that. So she does not even wait for her 200 max out, because she just sniffs that, or sniffs her possibility and her opportunity to just end it right here and right now, which will actually happen because the units that Schnubiiii has will not be able to beat this army composition, and Midas takes the best of 5 with a 3-0.